midst.
The usability person is struggling the most. Okay, I think this should work, but we can adapt if it doesn't. So hello everybody, welcome to the Unbook Club for Algorithms of Oppression. Our organizing team is very excited to have you with us. You already heard from Anoush, she's an engineering manager at MathWorks. I'm Rajasi Desai, I'm a UX researcher at MathWorks and naturally struggling the most with usability issues on the platform. Sindhuja Parimalarangan, who's a performance engineer, is also a core member of this group and helped us put this session together. She couldn't be here because of a very important personal commitment, but she played a huge role in setting this up together. So a little bit about me. I'm a mixed methods researcher at MathWorks, and I'm very interested in understanding the impact of technology on society. I'm also interested in inclusive design and research. My background is a bachelor's in engineering from Mumbai University and a master's in information systems from UC Berkeley. And I heavily credit my interest in inclusive design and research to my graduate program at Berkeley, where I was introduced to these concepts. As your messages are pouring in the chat, I'm very excited to know where you are all joining us from, so I can't wait to read that soon. Now, at this point, you might have a couple of questions. One, what is an unbook club? And two, do I need to have read this book to participate in today's session effectively? So let me just answer those questions before I even move to the next slide. An unbook club gets its name or is inspired by the model of unconference, where it's not a one-way flow of information where the presenters are the only one to share their knowledge and their views. An unbook club is a place where we all come to talk and discuss about issues. So while we will be using the first 15 to 20 minutes telling you about the book, we will use the next half for us to collaborate and talk about the important things that we learned from this book. The second part of the second question that you might have, do I need to read this book? The answer is no, because we'll be spending some time talking about the key concepts in the book. You do not need to have read the book at all. So a little bit about the book. The book Algorithms of Oppression is written by Dr. Safiya Umoja Noble. She's associate professor at UCLA, the co-founder and co-director of the UCLA Center for Critical Internet Inquiry, and the recipient of the 2021 MacArthur Genius Award, which is a very big deal. For me, the book is divided into two sections. Chapters 1 through 4 talk about how search is everywhere, how it's omnipresent. The author also goes to explain the mechanics of the search and the impact of search on people and on communities. There are a couple of case studies that highlight the negative impact of search on women, specifically Black girls. Chapters 5 through 6 talk about the future of search and how the author envisions the future of knowledge to be in the public. She talks about a new type of search engine called the Imagine engine, which we will look at in one of our exercises. So the way I retain information from books is through stories, and that's what I'm going to try to do today. Tell you three of my key takeaways from this book, and they will be in the form of stories. So my first key takeaway was about a story that was mentioned in the book called "Searching for Black Girls." This happened somewhere around 2011, so 10 years ago, where Dr. Noble was hosting a couple of her nieces and was looking to do some fun activities together. So she typed the phrase "Black girls" in Google search, hoping to find results where they can do some activities. However, the search results that ended up being displayed on the internet were very disturbing and horrifying. Dr. Noble will do a much better job at telling you what happened. So I'm going to play a video from the documentary Search Engine Breakdown, where she will describe this instance. At this point, if you do not hear my audio, please let me know.
Most people who use search engines believe that search engine results are fair and unbiased. The public, and especially kids and young people, use search engines to tell them the facts about the world. One weekend, my nieces were coming over to hang out, and I was thinking, oh, let me pull my laptop out and see if I can find some cool things for us to do this weekend. I just thought to type in Black girls And the whole first page of search results was almost exclusively pornography or hypersexualized content. In 2012, I started to see some of the results changing. Google had started to suppress the pornography around Black girls. Unfortunately, still today, we see pornography and kind of hypersexualized content as the primary way in which Latina and Asian girls are represented. What makes Asian girls so attractive? Asian fetish. Hot ladies from Asians see who we rank number 1 in 2020. Tender Asian girls meet real beauties. This is the study that was done by the markup that replicated my study from 10 years ago. They found that Black girls, Latina girls, and Asian girls, those phrases were so profoundly linked with kind of adult content. 0 for white girls, 0 for white boys. There are so many racial stereotypes and gender stereotypes that show up in search results. What about actual girls and children who go and look for themselves in these spaces?
And this last line is the reason why the story stood out to me. What if young girls and children look for themselves on the internet and this is what they find? I find that thought to be very, very horrifying. And I've taken a screenshot from the book about the search results that were displayed back in 2011. And I've given this presentation a couple of times already. It makes me really uncomfortable to say these things out loud, and practice hasn't made it perfect, but I'm going to do it anyway because I think it's important to call out what were the kind of things that were displayed. So on the right, you see an ad section which says hot black dating, local ebony sex. On the left, the first result says sugaryblackpussy.com, black girls in hardcore action. And I just can't think to imagine what if a teenager, what if a young girl went on the internet and thought this is the most relevant thing that the internet had to show them about them. So this was the first story from the book. Oops. The next story made me think, are search results trustworthy? So we're currently in 2021, almost at the end of 2021, and I've seen countless of memes that talk about how if something is not on the first page of the internet, then is it even true? So we kind of assume that everything that we see on the first page of the internet has to be accurate, but is it really? This story is something that made me rethink that. So in 2014, a young man by the name of Dylan Roof did an unthinkable thing. He opened fire in a church and ended up killing 9 African American worshippers. Now, soon after this, his manifesto became public on the internet, and he talks about a specific instance where he searched for the phrase black on white crimes, and in his words, this is the day where everything changed for him. He talks about seeing results from Wikipedia that shows statistics about how black on white crimes were a huge problem. Not only that, he went to another website. I think this was the first or the second result by the Council of Conservative Citizens. The Council of Conservative Citizens showed, again, misinformation, wrong statistics about how black on white crimes was a huge problem, not only in America, but in Europe. And this changed Dylan's worldview. Now, the author argues, why do we see results like Council of Conservative Citizens and Wikipedia as first entries and not things, credible sources like FBI or the Southern Poverty Law Center? The Council of Conservative Citizens has openly anti-Black, anti-gay, anti-immigrant, and anti-Muslim views, and they have not shied away from expressing them. This is a screenshot that the author took a year after the incident in 2015. And you see that the first result here is from New Nation News, again, a place which is not a credible source of information at all. One of the results on this page, again, you will see hate crimes that you don't hear about, violence against whites. So all of these views that are portrayed here are how the white community in America and Europe are the victims of crimes against them, which are done by Black people. The reason why the story stood out to me was I was thinking about how in 2014 or 2015, you actually had to go online and search for some phrases to get information. It could be trustworthy, it could not be trustworthy. But now, in the age of social media, you don't even need to do the search yourself. Because of the power of social media, you're exposed to things that your community shares. It could be people that are very close to you, like could be your friends, could be your parents, could be your family, or it could be that one girl that you met at a party 4 years ago. Sometimes they don't even have to be in your immediate network. You can be exposed to information from friends of friends, or something that is an ad. So 5 years after this search was performed for black on white crimes, this image was shared on Facebook in 2020. Again, this image refers to these statistics, and then says America does have a problem, but it's not what the media tells you it is. And then it will say stats from Wikipedia. Now, the disclaimer that is added on top is added by us to make sure that the image is not taken out of context. But even after 5 years, the problems still remain. Credit where it's due, though, when I looked for this image in 2021, this is what I saw. I did not see the image immediately. Rather, I saw this overlay which said false information checked by independent fact checkers. And then there were two calls to action: see why and then see photo. Now, while I do think that this is a good start, I do have a couple of questions. The first one is how long between the time an image is uploaded to the passes before this overlay is added? How many people end up seeing this image without any context or without any alert that this might contain false information? Two, even after this overlay is added, how many people end up clicking on see photo anyway? The reason I ask this question is because of the couple of years that we've all had. Uh, at the beginning of the COVID pandemic, there was a lot of misinformation around. So I kept seeing on Instagram any post that mentioned the word COVID had this information at the bottom that this image, this message, or this news has not been verified yet. But after a couple of weeks, I just learned to tune that out. Like my brain just saw, okay, this is something that's always there, and I tuned it out. So how many people are actually reading these alerts and these messages that are added? My last takeaway is probably, if I had to pick one takeaway that will stay with me for a very long time, it would be this third story. And this made me think, if something is not on the internet, does it not exist? So this is an interview that is in the last chapter of the book with Candice, who is a hairdresser and a small business owner in the Oakland area of California. Candice has been a hairdresser since the 1980s in the Oakland area, and her clientele predominantly includes members from the Black community. Now, Candice talks about how in the 1980s, her business was doing really well, predominantly because of word of mouth. So, if you were a student at a prestigious college in the prestigious college town nearby, that you would definitely be going to Candice because your friend referred her to them. Now, the relationships that she has built are still maintained because some of those people who were students back then are still go to her to avail her services. Not just that, their kids also are now clients of Candice. Some people have moved to a different country or to another coast, but they still send referrals to Candice. Now, you would think that with the advent of the internet and with so many things changing, that Candice's business only might have taken a turn for the better, right? The internet would have given her business the visibility that she deserves so that she gets more clients. Unfortunately, this is not true. In her words, she says, I quickly realized that internet and Yelp told people I did not exist. I think algorithms don't take into consideration communities of color and their culture of trusting in the web with our personal information. And just because I don't have reviews doesn't mean that I have no value. Because the computer, or I guess the internet or Yelp, is redefining who is valuable and where the value lies. And I believe this is false. The algorithm shouldn't get to decide whether I exist or not. So Candice here talked about how she then set up her business on Yelp. She thought, I can do this, and she set up her business, but her problems did not end there. She was sitting in her salon and tried to find her restaurant not by the name, but by typing the phrases black hair, African American hair, or black hairdressers. Now, she was one of the only, if not the only, black hairdresser in a white neighborhood. So you would think that her results would be in one of the top results, but unfortunately, that's not how it happened. So her results were way at the bottom of the list, and in the beginning were results from businesses that were run by white people or white hairdressers. She was really disappointed with this. Uh, uh, let's say that this filters a lot of people. People don't even see her business to begin with, but maybe some stick with it to the end. And then, even though hers is like the 20th result on the page, they do end up finding her and going to her page. Now, on her own page, again, you would think that at least people can find the right information on her page. I'm going to show you very quickly a screenshot of business on Yelp. This is not Candice's business, but a hair salon in Oakland, California. I want you to take 5 to 10 seconds to just look at this image and either make a mental note of what are some of the key things that stand out to you on this page. If you're feeling like it, I would also appreciate it if you could type it in the chat. What are some of the things on this page that stand out to you? Oh, so I think somebody's in my house. I'm just going to be back real quick. Sorry. I'll be back just in a second.
Okay. Yeah, you do what you need to do. And meanwhile, I'm going to say, so excellent discussion in the chat. And, keep your ideas coming. Think of things that you have experienced that are a little bit like that. I guess I'll probably have a chance to talk about this more, but you can hear from the way I speak that I might have grown up outside the United States, even as I live here now. So I grew up speaking Armenian and Russian, which are two different languages with two pretty different scripts. And so searching for me sometimes means also searching things in those languages, and that's incredibly funky. But anyway, Rajasi, welcome back. I was just amusing us with idle conversation. Are you okay?
I'm okay. Yeah, I raised a maintenance request because it's getting really cold in Boston and my room is not getting hot enough. And the person just happened to stop by. So
of course they had to come now. Yes.
Yeah, everybody got a sneak peek into my life. But that's fine. The benefits of working from home. So I see a couple of responses from in the chat. It is recommending you might also consider with other places. Services list is empty. Quite a lot of other suggested places. And yep, this is exactly what I thought were the most popular things that were vying for my attention. Is this section over here and then this section over here. And if you were to ask me what is the third one, then it would be the write a review button. So basically everything that is red on a white background is really catching my eye. Now, as you rightly said, that these reviews at first glance might seem like they're reviews for the business, but they're actually not. You see, you might also consider, and then here it says sponsored, the same thing over here. So the design is actively trying to drive traffic away from this business to another business. You will see in this case that the listing that I'm showing you is a hair salon, but in the you might also consider is showing a wax center, which is not really even related. This is exactly what Candice said, that a third of her page was talking about things that are not even about her business and driving traffic away. Now, the first reason that this story stood out to me is because as a consumer of Yelp, this has happened to me a lot. I often search Yelp to find something I need. It could be a restaurant, or a couple of years ago, it was a driving school. And I look for a specific page, and when I'm reading the reviews, I realize, oh wait, I'm not reading the review of the place that I actually wanted, and this has happened multiple times. So they're trying to direct traffic away from these businesses that are not paying them a lot of money to the ones that are. The second reason why this story stood out to me is before reading this, for me, an entity like a business or a restaurant only fell into two categories. One is this a good restaurant or not? Let's say a good restaurant is 3.5 stars and above, and a bad one is not 3.5, below 3.5. I'd never stopped to think that there might be a lot of businesses or restaurants that I'm not even seeing because of factors that are not in their control. There could be language barriers. Maybe they're not able to pay a lot of money to be in the sponsored results. And there are so many things that are happening behind the scenes that I just don't that I am one of those people that decides the value of a place just by looking at the review. So this was definitely eye-opening for me. So those were the 3 stories that I wanted to tell you, and I hope you got an insight into the kind of things that the book taught us. Now we'll move on to the next section where we'll do some hands-on exercises together. So before I get into this, Anoush, is there anything that we want to talk about from the chat? Okay. So the first exercise, what we're going to do is we're going to search for ourselves. So let's take a couple of minutes to search for your name in your preferred search engine, and then we'll all examine the results. Here are a couple of points to get you thinking. We love to know which search engine did you use, what is your preferred search engine, and then share some of the results that you observed. They could be positive, they could be something like, yeah, I don't know if I should have seen that. And Anoush and I will do the same. So yeah, let's take a couple of minutes. Okay, if anyone is ready and would like to share what they found. I see that some people are writing things in the chat, which is great. But if somebody also wants to just unmute themselves and mention what you found, that would be great too.
Wait, were we supposed to search for our full name or our first name?
Either works. I looked for my first name and last name, but you can do either.
So there are some comments here. Let me go ahead and read them. And then if you friends want to speak up, that's welcome too. So
sorry, Anoush, I see Mariam has her hand up.
Okay, great.
Sorry to interrupt. So I noticed that I searched in Google and DuckDuckGo, and I noticed that DuckDuckGo actually brings up some more professional type like website, like LinkedIn, ResearchGate, or the papers that I've been involved and things like that. But Google brings more social media related platforms. Yeah, it was really interesting exercise. Great.
Thanks, Mariam, for sharing.
Yeah. So would anyone else who wrote something in the chat want to share? Otherwise, I will read what you wrote, which may not be better. Okay, so it looks like Ushnish's comment is up here saying that you know, DuckDuckGo does not store search data. And Ender also says, I also use that. And then Tala asks if Ecosia is good. And we'll actually talk about Ecosia before the session is out. So hold with bated breath whether it's good or not. We don't know. I mean, all of these things have some challenges. Okay, Pranav, do you want to say what you wrote here?
Oh, yeah, sure. I just used Google in incognito mode, and the top results were my personal website and my department's page of myself, which is all good. Then there was a LinkedIn page of a different Pranav Goyal, but then another LinkedIn page, which was my page. And then slowly it started more results of a different person with the same name, but the top results seemed okay.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. Let me see. Menatula, I don't know. Anything you want to share?
No, I mean, yeah, it was just like my LinkedIn, my Scholar. I searched with the full name, so I think that's why I got like the related. Like, yeah, there was nothing really there.
Okay, thank you so much for sharing that. Let's see, Lauren. Anything? Yeah.
Yeah, I guess I'm basically nobody, and I have a kind of common name. Like the governor of my state has the same name as me, his wife. But when I searched, like I tried adding like software, and then I found my LinkedIn page. So yeah, DuckDuckGo, I agree. I haven't used it, or I just tried that, and it gave more less social media results, so more sort of news articles and professional pages, I guess.
Yes, and as I'm reading things in this chat and manipulating various buttons, I can't help but notice that Louvere Walker-Hannon is here with us, and I just want to shout out on audio, a welcome. And you know, Louvere makes mountains move, and in her world-changing Black in AI keynote this morning, she shared some amazing thoughts and direction for all of us. So please, you know, check it out. And also is one of the organizers of NeurIPS, serves on the conference committee and works with meetup hosts worldwide. Thank you. Okay, Ender, you have a hand up. Thank you, Pranav, for helping us out here.
Sure. So I actually have a pretty unique name. So when I search my first and last name, I'm the only person that comes up. So that's why I searched for my first name at first. So when I search for my first name, I find my GitHub profile, I find my writing profile, I find my GitHub guest, I find articles I've written. For some reason, I find my YouTube, and I also find an article, well, not an article, like a snippet about me from my university. I guess I can say my university is Columbia, talking about democratizing machine learning using federated learning. So that makes me happy. And then there's something about a book character who has a name similar to me. So I guess my name isn't super unique at a certain point. And then there's a website called ender.com that I don't own. So that's sad. And that's about it.
Okay, so welcome. How are we doing on time, Rajasi? Should we keep going with other thoughts in the chat?
Yep. I think, oh, sorry. So I'm not able to see what the time is. So I'm just going to check. Yeah, it's
2:31, my friend. Okay.
Yeah, I think we're good. We probably have some time. Did you want to share what?
Can I actually add something?
Yeah,
Yep.
let's hear it.
Okay, so someone said something concerning in the chat. Someone said, I found a website called apollo.io, which seems to be attempting to sell my personal information. So I want to talk about this because I'm super interested in privacy, both in federated learning and in general. So you can go to this website and make a request for them to delete your information. What they're doing is completely legal, so you can't report them, but you can get your information removed. That's what I wanted to say.
Yeah, thanks. What I thought was interesting about it was that the information that they're trying to sell is public.
Right, that's why it's legal.
Yeah. Interesting business model. The more concerning thing I saw is that DuckDuckGo is it's surfacing websites that are scraping like public records, and the DuckDuckGo algorithm like surfaces those details as like keywords. So like DuckDuckGo like outright advertises like my age and what it thinks is where I live.
Oh.
And that's also why none of these search engines are perfect. I'm not going to say that DuckDuckGo is a privacy preserving angel that's going to save humankind. It's just not saving some of my data, but I'm not going to say it's like the perfect search engine either.
Right. Thank you so much for sharing this. So friends, anyone else who said something? Alejandro, what is it? Who else do
Yeah,
we
I think
have?
that's
Ushnish, yeah. Okay, so Rajasi, I was gonna say, can we just add one word that, or one like a sub-bullet that last year here at NeurIPS, we had an honor of hosting the Race After Technology Book Club. So the author of Race After Technology, Dr. Ruha Benjamin, we had the fortune of having met her in person at Black in AI workshop in 2019 and get a copy of Race After Technology from her. And that sort of was like a mission that was given to us to learn what she had to say in that book. And we had a discussion like this about Race After Technology. And one of the headline sort of ways to start that discussion is what Dr. Benjamin herself says she does at Princeton, where she asks people to talk about what is it that they think other people hear and what are the stereotypes associated with your name. So for instance, my name is Anoush, and when you hear it, what do I think comes to your mind, kind of thing. And this is sort of the search engine version of that discussion, which by the way is not the same because we are human and search engines are robots, but still, and yeah, as you can see, important things come up when you ask these questions. But Rajasi, what happens? Do you want to wrap this up?
Oh, yeah, we can. So yeah, great discussion. Thank you, everybody. We can move on to the next exercise, I think, Anoush.
Sure.
Let me just move to the next slide.
Wonderful.
Yep.
Okay, so it's my job to continue on this amazing path set out by Rajasi, so thank you. And what I want to say about what brings me here is, and we'll put it here in the corner, and it so happens that Louvere, who is here with us, was one of our speakers at this session, which we hosted at MathWorks like a few months ago. And so at MathWorks, we have a bunch of sort of grassroots communities that have come together. We don't claim to be perfect. We definitely have work to do, but one thing we try to make sure we do is to build any communities whose goal at least is to advocate or improve or lift up women and other marginalized community members like this community is, to make sure that that work is intersectional. And so that Black women, Latina, non-binary and LGBTQ folks, as well as disabled folks, have a place at the table that is somewhere in the center, okay, right? And so we also had one of only 35 Black women in full professors of engineering in the United States, Dr. Carlota Berry, speak in this session with Louvere and some other amazing colleagues and friends. And we just want to, that's what I want to highlight, give you those names to take forward, and also that what we aspire to do, not perfect at it, but want to make sure that the tables we build when we build them are intersectional. Okay, so next slide. Okay, so what we're going to do is some of what Dr. Noble did back, so many years ago, and it took years for some of the more egregious problems to be fixed somewhat, but nevertheless, let's give it a try and see what happens when we today search for things like unprofessional hairstyles, okay? And what happens today when we search for Black girls? Is it awesome? Is it, is there room for improvement? And indigenous girls, and you can think of some other terms that come to you, or maybe if you speak another language, think of what we would ask that would be a little bit like this in that language. So, and then let's come back and see, share, and of course, continue to share in the chat. Thank you, Rajasi. Do you want to hit?
Oh, yep.
And enter one more time to just make sure we say, yeah. Right. Okay, so Pranav, do you want to say what you're seeing?
Yeah, sure.
Sorry, and there, by the way, I missed your comment was first. But anyways, Pranav, let's hear you and then we'll come back to Ender.
Yeah, sure. So searching for unprofessional hairstyles on Google first shows up like images prominently of Black women and some of Black men, and also shows related terms to search for, like in images, which is work, professional, Black, job interviews, and so on. So seems again pretty clear what Dr. Noble said seems to be happening till now. Yeah.
Right. Let's see. So Ender.
Well, yes. I mean, imagine you're just a trans 8-year-old and you want to look up how do I find trans girls to play with? I don't know. Or you're looking up activities to do with your trans daughter. And the first result is 50 sexiest trans girls. I think that's quite upsetting. And most of the results are extremely sexual. That's the common theme, which is very upsetting. They're just very sexual results. I don't even know why they're so sexual. It's actually very weird.
Right. Thank you so much for sharing that. And let's see. Yes, it's heartbreaking. And I think a quote that comes to mind from Dr. Benjamin, I mean, she says racism, but I think it certainly applies here as well. Racism, she says, is productive. And what you, first of all, it's puzzling, right? When you hear that. But what she means, I think, is that somebody built it, okay? It isn't like an act of God or a natural phenomenon or something. It is, frankly, us participating in societal systems produce this outcome, which we really don't want. And we will talk in a minute, but how we can imagine a future we want. Okay, so that search result you just saw, which is going to hurt that child and their family, okay? People like us with nice salaries have sat down and coded up the code that produces that. So we're, looks nice anyways from the $10 a month I was super happy to make in my undergrad. But Pranav and Florian, I guess, building on what we discussed earlier with unprofessional hairstyles, do you want to add something?
Yeah, when I search for it, I ironically get hits that specifically discuss whether or not this search query is racist.
Right.
So you get a lot of pictures that are collages of like both, black girls with black hair, or basic white dudes with a generic haircut, and comparing this to, and kicking off a fuss about how Google puts those first. It's very weird.
Right. And that seems, on the face of it, seems sort of helpful, like that analysis seems helpful. But first of all, it's a little bit like a software company going out there and saying 600 times in a row that they have 1% Black folks working at that company is not actually helpful, okay? Like what they should be doing with themselves is fixing the way that they recruit and retain people instead of creating more artifacts that say things that just say, describe how they're supposedly powerless to affect something productive. And the truth is, people like us sit in these companies and we can do a ton better. Okay, friends. So anyone else who said so? Lauren, do you want to say what you observed?
Yeah, looking up like professional, unprofessional hairstyles, there was definitely a lot more like traditionally Black hairstyles in the unprofessional one. I also noticed like some of the asymmetrical haircuts in women we see, like, or people who appear to present as female. Like they had a lot of the asymmetrical haircuts being the unprofessional side of things, women with short hair. So that was, a thing.
Yeah, very interesting. And I guess I'm going to share something that hasn't come up expressly yet. When I searched for Black girls a little bit earlier, I mean, on the face of it, it was sort of cleaned up. Like, first of all, I was using the supposedly good or better search engine, DuckDuckGo. And second of all, it has been top of mind for people for a while, I guess. So one would hope people have spent some time fixing some of these awful outcomes. So one of the top link that showed up was something about like 100,000 or whatever best Black girl pics or whatnot. And so first of all, best in what sense? Like I did not click on there to find out, but is something is telling me good things are not forthcoming if we were to go there. And then also, how in the name of goodness did they get their hands on 100,000 pictures of these people? Like, anyway, just this is not good. All right. Yeah. So Rajasi, anything else, folks? Do you wanna speak up? A person called participant. Do you wanna say something?
Yes. Yeah. I think it's interesting because when I looking at like the article, there's like those images of unprofessional hairstyle that it show that basically a lot of article blaming that Google bias and things like that. I think in this case, like Google might not wanting to show like, oh, what's exactly messy hair look like, because it's going to be offending to any kind of groups of people. So in a sense that it wants to avoiding any those conflicts. So it's showing those blame, the article that blaming on itself. So yeah, it's just my my hypothesis.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing, and please take these thoughts forward with you and examine what you see. I see Mariam and Pranav are discussing that for Latina girls and Asian girls, there are undesirable results somewhat similarly to what we discussed that are showing up. Okay, Rajasi. So how about we go to our next slide and a question which is more hopeful sounding, but there is definitely still work to do. So, we already talked briefly about Ecosia, which purports to, for every so many searches or something, to plant a tree, and that, as it says on here, removes so many grams of CO2 from the atmosphere. That sounds pretty cool. Like, that's a good idea, right? And again, it's made by somebody so brilliant. And then back on the left is something that Dr. Noble herself proposed, and she's brilliant. And also she was saying how her family is a family of artists. So it's a kind of an artistic solution to a terrible problem, where you can choose whether you're actually looking for pornography or entertainment or other sort of colors in this color picker. So, there are some, and there are other attempts out there at, tackling some of these search challenges. But so we're going to do a little exercise. Rajasi, could you press one more time? And let's just ask ourselves, what does it mean to you to imagine alternatives? Why is this important? What are you imagining? What are you building that's, addressing some challenges like this, or other challenges that are sort of there because of the harms we have put into the systems that we have created, or others before us who were just like us have created. Yeah.
So something that I was thinking about is that it's really hard to find actually good results for math-related queries on Google or DuckDuckGo. And this is because search engines are just prioritized to get clicks, and math is not really super clickable or fun. And I was researching how to make my own search engine, literally just for math. And because of this, I was researching a lot of issues that have to do with search engines in general. And I think a lot of issues that search engines have to do with the idea of a knowledge graph, which I'm sure most people here understand. But a knowledge graph is basically a way for it's a way for an algorithm to build its own internal knowledge. You build knowledge through a graph, and you can use a graph database to query the knowledge in a knowledge graph. And I, as you might be able to tell by the way I'm talking, I was really struggling to actually build the knowledge graph in a way that is not super complicated, because knowledge graphs are usually built using like transformers and stuff. And I was trying to do this like as a student who still has assignments. But I think one of the problems with knowledge graphs is that they're built on huge amounts of data from Wikipedia. And the issue is that there's no objective truth. They're trying to say, this is what Black girls are based on everything we've gotten from Wikipedia and all of these news articles. And we just scrape as much data as possible. And that's how we build our search engine. But the issue is that your data source is biased, I think. And I think that my ideal search engine would not try to be objective at all.
Wow, that is, I'm still processing, but very interesting. And as a math person, I care about this, and it sort of also seems like math would be easier, but yeah, there's definitely plenty to think about. Okay. Yes, bias in Wikipedia, there's plenty to talk about there. So for instance, I mean, I'm just a hacker like all y'all probably, as in I'm not like any kind of a Wikipedia editing expert, but with a couple of amazing women that we mentioned actually here, Dr. Barry and team, we try to create some Wikipedia pages for some of the, even we edited some of the pages of the women we talked about today. So Dr. Noble, Dr. Benjamin, as well as some of the Black in AI leaders. And a lot of those changes, like a number of new pages we tried to create did not make it through. A lot of the changes were supposedly shut down due to some rule or other that people were like all of a sudden following a ton more ardently than I would imagine they do if like a white guy were being written about. And so it is definitely very top of mind for me. Right. What else, friends? I'm going to share something simple, okay, while you're thinking. So, and I would love, Louvere, by the way, if you wanted to say a few words, we would love to hear from you. But we know you have used your voice so much, all these days and today especially, so we don't want to burden you if that's not the right time. But yeah, I was going to share just a small story. So when the Omicron variant, so it's not about search, but it's about tech. When the Omicron variant was found in South Africa, and it's a more complicated story because researchers in a number of African countries actually collaborated, and one immigrated into another and did this research on this. But still, when the variant was found, one of the, a professor who lives in the United States, but who is an African and a Francophone, a French-speaking African, was hosting a Twitter space, okay? And just like we are right now. And on this Twitter spaces, the language was French, okay? And this was a very important Twitter space to be having because like the pandemic is in this upswing, the travel bans are happening in the African countries just at that moment. I mean, it's heartbreaking, okay? And the French translation or the French transcription rather is not working in Twitter spaces. So if you and I speak French, like if you and I speak English, it is an audio only framework, but it generates closed captions that are in English and they're not perfect, but they exist, right? In French, they don't exist at all. So sometimes for some of these languages, like a trivial thing, like you don't even have to be a hero. It's about creating this. And frankly, it's a solved problem out there, like language. I mean, not solved well, but like, why would we in 2021 not be able to transcribe French speaker speaking? And then the impact, I just want to say, sometimes you're like, okay, Anoush, your French is not good enough anyway. Just listen to like the English broadcast and be over with it. Well, it's life-changing, okay? People are stranded and in real pain. Like we can't just say, okay, whatever, let's use another language. It's just not right. Anyway, but Louvere, what do you think?
Well, first of all, I want to say thank you for providing me with this opportunity to speak. And I have a lot of thoughts, but that's not the focus for this awesome meetup. I mean, one of the items that I think about related to, you know, the content of the book and where we are in terms of what we're seeing with the activities and the results is, you know, one of the themes that I always think about is, what about the representation of who is involved with the development of so much? Because even though you can solicit feedback from various groups of individuals, there's also something to be said about being able to be in the room and rooms where the activities are occurring, where the algorithms are being developed, where hopefully even in those scenarios, there are people who are willing to and able to speak up and speak out. And I know I've had that happen to me in a few scenarios where there was something happening design review wise, and you know, feedback was requested from me, and it was helpful to see that related, you know, to my own work. But I hope that can be more widespread. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you so much, Louvere. And I am going to say, and you did say it, I'm just going to re-say it, the job for other ones of us who are like in a non-marginalized status in a given discussion, okay, is yes, to make sure, I mean, even for me, a white person, it's hard to ask the question, okay, like, why are no Black women in this room? But I have to do it, okay? It is scary, but why is it scary? It's because white supremacy enforces, like there is a, what is it? If I step out of rank with whiteness, it's going to tell me I am not following in step, okay? But that is not the goal. I'm 49 years old. I do not want to be dead and know that I am, you know, have been silent in too many of these rooms, okay? Let's see here. And then the other, yeah, sorry, I wanted to add, it is vital that it be made safe, okay? Just because we have a marginalized person in a room, we cannot burden them with doing all the thinking. And then if they speak, then sort of laugh or dismiss what they said. And, you know, it's happened to us plenty of times in our lives, but maybe not all of those times were we marginalized, okay? When I grew up in Armenia, every single person around me was Armenian, and you know, those who weren't were marginalized, okay? And so I would say with probability 100, if one of you was there, you'd be marginalized, okay? And we would need to have that empathy. All right, so what else? Does anybody who hasn't spoken yet before want to say something? We're kind of coming up to the end of the hour. I mean, we're not gonna like, the room is not gonna evaporate at the end of the hour, but also we do wanna respect you and make sure you have the rest that you need and the time that you need to do other things today. Okay.
I can pull up the next slide if you'd like, Anoush.
Let's do this. Okay, so thank you so much, Louvere, for your thoughts. We appreciate you. You know, it's an honor to have you on this, in this conversation with us. And we shared a link to Louvere's talk a little earlier in our chat, so go check it out. And then, you know, the book Algorithms of Oppression is out there. It is available in audiobook, so if that's your thing, you know, definitely a way to consume it. But and then if you want to watch a video, like some of us don't want to watch a video, then go read that Wikipedia page. But if you want to watch a video, search engine breakdown is a 20-minute or something video that's impactful, and you know, Dr. Noble's voice has power, and also Dr. Latanya Sweeney speaks in that video, who is another, you know, pillar of innovation and bravery here. We do have like a little form that some of you might have already signed, but that might be one way to keep in touch. So if you wanted to give that form a shot, that could be one way to go. And I just 400 hours ago copied it, but don't seem to still have it in the chat. So that's what we have. Fine. So something like that. Anything you want to say, Rajasi, in closing?
No, I just want to thank everybody so much for attending the talk. We did a version of this presentation last night, and because of different time zones, it ended up happening at 12:30 a.m. Eastern time. But we were glad to have done that one and this one too. Really engaging conversation. So thank you so much for bringing your curiosity and your thoughts to this session. This has been a pleasure doing this with you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. We're honored to be on this journey with all of you, and you know, go out there. You know, keep in touch. If there is some way we can support you, we'll be happy to do that. And we will, you know, if we need support with something, we'll post on Twitter and you will see it. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good rest of your day. Bye.
All right. Yeah, we'll stay here for a second to make sure the house is still standing and you can exit with grace. But and if you want to share something in the last few seconds, you definitely can. But you know, thank you, Rajasi. Okay, Alejandro says, read this book recently, which is pretty cool. So thank you, friends. We're also going to close the Twitter space. Thank you for being here, and continue the conversation on Twitter if you like, or find us on the internet in other ways. Bye. Yeah, this was a good discussion, like people say. Yeah.
Really enjoyed it.
Okay, my friend. So shall we exit from here? If you want to chat or something, we can find a way to do that on another line.
Sounds good.
Okay.
See you.
Thank
Thanks.
you.
Bye.